Okay, we get to spend a few minutes with Matt Dixon. He's from our new Tallahassee Bureau. He's in Naples for a few days, and let's get caught up on some of the action from the session just passed. The issue of in-state tuition for the expansion of in-state tuition, it was a very volatile issue, and some people would have you believe that this was all about undocumented residents coming over the border and taking spots at public universities that Florida citizens would otherwise have, and that's just not the case.
Well, yeah, probably I would say the hottest button issue this session was the issue of providing in-state tuition to students who came here at a very young age with their parents but are here illegally. They're kind of dubbed dreamers, and that's the title that they're given. And there were a lot of folks who argued against it, and most of those guys were in the Senate. They said, you know, some powerful senators said, we don't need to do this, it's not necessary, and they sort of pushed back. But for the first time in about a decade of trying to do this legislation, there was some powerful supporters as well. Governor Scott.
He came aboard, that was key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, House Speaker Will Weatherford was also a very early proponent. So the early dynamic for this was kind of the House wanted it, the Senate didn't, and inevitably some key senators came aboard, and it got passed.
And the overriding dynamic, as you were telling me earlier, election year, it was hyper-political in Tallahassee.
Well, I mean, the idea that they've literally tried to do some version of this for the past decade. I believe legislation's been filed for 11 years, and most of the time it hasn't gone anywhere. The reason it had a lot of wind at its back this session, a lot of people believe, is election year politics. Demographics are changing in Florida. The governor came on board late. Speaker Weatherford is kind of seen as an ascendant political figure. No one knows what's next for him, but he's presumably going to run for something. So, you know, like a lot of issues in Tallahassee, it's certainly not unique. A lot of people sort of smelled politics when this thing really sort of got rolling.
You can smell politics and a lot more with the, well, not really with the medical marijuana. We're talking about a liquid form of marijuana, in this case, politics here too.
A little bit. I mean, there was certainly some very compelling testimony during the committee hearings. This particular strain called Charlotte's Web is liquid, not smokable. And what the key backers and proponents said was it helps with kids who suffer from seizures, and some pretty terrible seizures. So there was I would say a little more emotion, certainly politics, but a little emotion mixed in with this one, because there was very compelling testimony each step of the way. But that being said, it was carried by some fairly conservative members of both the House and the Senate, who traditionally would not have touched this issue and likely would have opposed it.
But this will take some of the wind out of the sails of Morgan & Morgan and Charlie Crist.
That's the thought process. There are some people who think that constitutional amendment to make overall all medical marijuana legal is going to increase voter turnout for Democrats. That is a thought process. And then those who are a bit more skeptical thinkers think that the legislation this session is an effort to be able to say, well, heck, lawmakers already took care of it, and that maybe it'll keep down some of that turnout.
You'll be reading more of his stories in the Daily News and at naplesnews.com. Matt Dixon from our Tallahassee Bureau.